BetOnline is your #1 source for all your summer sports this season. MLB, golf, NBA, NHL, all your playoff needs are handled in one place. BetOnline. Latest odds and lines, including the most up-to-date team matchups for all your favorite sports. It's all right there at BetOnline. Sit down and head to the website today to get in on the action, or use your mobile device. BetOnline, where the game starts. All right, let's get down to business. An active lifestyle can cause hemorrhoids. That sucks. Lucky for you, they're south of the border. South of the border is a holistic approach to dealing with the affected area. Go to southoftheborder.com, use code AHOLE, AHOLE, get yourself 30% off. That's pretty rad. And this is not an area of your body you want to put bad ingredients in. Make sure you turn to South of the Border. Southoftheborder.com, code AHOLE.
I hope you're ready to have your mind blown with the greatest health and fitness information on the planet.
Yes, bitch!
Hello, everybody. Mike Catherwood here. Oh, hi. I wanted to make a quick podcast, quick episode to talk about some things that are definitely relevant to the show. In fact, it's pretty much based around the show, but it's not necessarily like your typical fare. My friend and a guy who I really look up to, who's very good at his job, he runs the Punk Rock MBA. Check out his YouTube channel, Finn McKenty. He just yesterday put up a video about how hard he's having a really hard time with his channel, because it seems like music and topics that he's very interested in but aren't necessarily gaining mainstream appeal don't do very well. His videos, they don't actually get a lot of views and blah, 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 blah. And they get maybe a lot of negative feedback. And then he'll do videos about either genres of music or bands that he doesn't necessarily like, but he knows that they're popular and they have a lot of, like, at least a lot of like viral love. Of course, they do really well. And so he's stuck between this rock and a hard place where he has to invest all his time in doing stuff he doesn't really like. And the whole point of doing the channel was to work on stuff that was inspiring and blah, 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 blah. I know we all have ways in which our jobs can be, in which our jobs aren't perfect. But it really got me thinking, and then I just happened to be talking to a colleague on the phone back in Los Angeles about broadcasting. And he asked me about literally this show and then what I'm doing out here in Texas. And he said, how's it going? I was like, it's really hard, man. It sucks, to be honest with you. And he's like, why? It seems like, you know, you talk about things that you enjoy. And I said, I am, but I have to analyze. First off, it's not like particularly successful, if I'm being very honest. And that is hard, you know. I've certainly dealt with that before, but in the past I always had like vision of like, well, if I learn how to do this better, if I start to work harder, things will work out for me. And that's kind of not the case with viral content and with podcasting and YouTube and stuff like that. It's not necessarily about the quality of the work, and that's what's getting to be so frustrating to me. My dog Willie, seriously, thank you. That's the whole point of this conversation, and what I want, I guess, from you as listeners and people who actually do appreciate this show, is that I'll start with a story, and I will then lead into what I'm kind of the whole purpose of making this video. Back when I was doing radio, I would do Loveline, of course, but I also would do daytime AM political talk radio. And it was on a relatively conservative station. Not relative, it was a very kind of legendarily conservative station. And I'm not like super lib by any stretch of the imagination, but I'm also not like diehard right-wing guy. And I loved the program director, this gentleman, Drew Hayes, because he always told me, he's like, no, do you. And if that is upsetting to listeners, that's not really my concern. What's my concern is like, do your best broadcasting. And I was like, wow, thanks, dude. You know, so it really meant a lot to me. And I would the phones would literally explode when I would talk about these things or talk to people. I remember this one, and this is not a knock on this person. I want to make it very clear. This is not a a partisan statement. But I had Gloria Allred on, and it was right at the height of like Me Too stuff, really famous Me Too stuff. Louis C.K. and Harvey Weinstein and Bill Cosby. It was all like, we're talking right in the Trump candidacy for 2016. So, and of course she was talking about how difficult it is to see a man running for president who is so misogynistic, blah, blah, blah. And I just kind of was given by her people these hot button topics to talk about and essentially like hit these questions. And I did. And because I, frankly, for a couple of reasons. One, I don't have anything personally against Gloria Allred, and I think she's someone who's quite accomplished, and I respect it in that way. But more so is like I was kind of given because she's very close with Hillary Clinton. This is during the candidacy or the run up to 2016 presidency. So I knew like she'd literally hang up. Her people have made it kind of clear, right? And the phones are exploding, right? And so I'm seeing like you get this immediate reaction, and that the ratings take a couple months to finally see, but like at least the phones in talk radio, that's always a great barometer for like how hard it's hitting on the streets, in real time. And I'm talking about, we had 10 phone lines and they're literally all 10 blinking, and like the phone screeners can't get to them quick enough, because like super hot button topic, everyone has a really passionate feeling about it, But internally I'm saying, I'm really not doing very good radio, not doing very good broadcasting, but I got to feed the beast here because people are clearly into it, But I literally wasn't thinking about what I was going to ask her. I was kind of reading off these like, well, what about this guy? And I was staying within boundaries that I didn't impose on myself. That's an example of like, you just kind of like roll your eyes. And the relationship to that was that I was getting really good feedback, but it wasn't very good, in my opinion. 2 days later, I'm talking to Mike Huckabee about, now Republican candidates, and we're talking candidates and everything, and they have provided me no limitations on what to talk about with Mr. Huckabee. Again, please let me reiterate, I know how wild this shit gets online, but this isn't a partisan thing, okay? This has nothing to do with, this is me and my abilities as a broadcaster. And we're talking politics, we're talking, Republican candidates, Democratic candidates, and blah, 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 blah. And I said, Mr. Huckabee, I have a serious question for you, and I hope if this is at all offensive, because I certainly don't mean it to be, or if this is uncomfortable, you don't have to answer, but I would like to. And I said, Mr. Huckabee, I just had my first child, and it's a female. I said, I have a daughter, and I have this crazy stuff in my head because I don't know how to relate to girls, certainly little girls that well, but I also get like, I want her to be her own woman. I want her to be powerful and successful, but I also get like really protective because she's a female. Like I can easily tell you right now, I don't have a son, but if I had a son, I would be so much more relaxed about him hurting himself or doing dangerous things. And so my whole point in this question, Mr. Huckabee, you've been in politics a long time and you've been really successful a long time. I'm sure you probably worked your way through dealing with criticism in the press, with public opinion, and dealing with people saying horrible things about you. You're probably pretty good at dealing with it. What's it like now that your daughter is a prominent political figure? What's it like to see people say things about her, negative, to see your daughter getting trashed? How do you deal with that, and what is that difficult, sir? And Mike Huckabee said, that is such an amazing question, and I'm so glad you asked that. And he went into detail. Yeah, like you said, I knew getting into this business, it was going to get rough. People would have their opinions, but you deal with it. And a lot of times behind closed doors, the same people who are critical would be quite nice and blah, blah. He said, but I almost can't read the paper anymore, because if people are going to say, or I certainly can't watch like a lot of punditry on TV, like the cable news channels, because when people say things about Sarah, I get furious. I don't know what to do. It's impossibly hard to deal with that, because you just, no one should be put in that situation to see their children getting skewered. And my boss, a couple other colleagues, I remember other guys in radio, came in after the show, and they were like, that was really good radio. That was like really excellent. And I said, thanks, man. I really appreciate it. They're like, I would never think to talk to Mike Huckabee, certainly right now, about that. And you got a response out of him that was so real and blah, 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 blah. My point is I tried something that I thought would be good radio. It ended up being apparently good radio from the perspective of people who are good at radio, and that didn't necessarily fire up the airwaves as far as ratings and response. And that's why I kind of have such a hard time right now, because I know, like when I talk about Ozempic or celebrities with good bodies, like it gets traction. And when I really work hard to think of very applicable, maybe meaningful ways to tie in fitness and diet, nutrition and physique and everything into what we kind of deal with on the larger picture, the way I see physique transformation is being such a much more representative, because frankly having abs isn't that important. It's cool, I like it, it's made me feel really good about it, but being shredded or being buff isn't that important. But what it can kind of expose in your own life or can motivate you to do in a larger scale is, I think, quite important. And so when I talk about those things and I get no response, it's like, well, what am I doing here? Because I'd frankly rather give up. I'd rather just stop doing this and look to focus on other stuff than I would be interested in kind of like having on hot button guests that I don't think are that interesting, or people that I know would get me buzz, and talking about topics that I know are going to get the reaction, but I don't really care. I kind of am not in support of it. Like certain reductionist diets and certain drugs and stuff, like I actually don't want people taking them, if I was to be honest, or doing those diets, but it's really popular right now. So I'm stuck in this rock and a hard place, and that's essentially what this is about. And I hope you have a great day. I encourage you to like, subscribe, do all that, but also give me comments. Give me comments on my Instagram. Give me comments on, I'm at Mike Catherwood, certainly on YouTube, and in any way that you'd like it. Of course, my Patreon is probably the best way to have an actual interaction with me, because it's a little bit more relegated to people who are genuinely interested. So check that out if you're interested, and I love you, and take it easy.